We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundary, working toward creating a global spiritual community, rooted in profound love, which cultivates wonder, imagination, and the courage to act. Adapting to the COVID-19 pandemic has been difficult for many bricks and mortar congregations. Early on in the pandemic, we were in a unique position to assist many congregations with the transition. We hosted special episodes of The VUU, provided advice and counseling to religious professionals, and trained congregations for live streaming worship, all while providing robust online programming for our members. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine to our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison, and investing in innovative ministry. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and to fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Hello, everyone out there in Viewland. It is so wonderful to be here again for another episode of The VUU, the Church of the Larger Fellowship's weekly online talk show. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, part of the lead ministry team here at CLF, joining you from Peekskill, New York, a little bit north of New York City. My co-host today is the Reverend Dawn Fortune. How are you this morning, Dawn? This afternoon?
It's morning everywhere but where we are. I'm Reverend Dawn Fortune. I am at I currently serve our congregation at the UU congregation of the South Jersey Shore in Galloway, New Jersey, down by Atlantic City. We are in a very red section of a very blue state. It's interesting here. I don't know, Michael, you and I are left unsupervised today, so all manner of mischief may happen. But things here are good, and I want to also give a shout out to Tanner, who's behind the scenes, behind the chalice today, doing all the techie things. Tanner, you want to tell us what you do? No, he doesn't.
We're not. But one of the things that Tanner is doing is monitoring your comments. If you are watching us live on YouTube or Facebook, and you put comments in the chat, Tanner will get those comments to us, and we will try and get them into the conversation. So we welcome your live participation here with the VUU. If you are watching us on our podcast, Tanner can't do that today. Well, we hope that you have lots of comments, and we will, get since um, since this week we are talking about the Church of the Larger Fellowship's own Worthy Now Prison Ministry
Nice.
program. We can actually answer your questions if you put them in not so live. So hopefully, we can actually make this week's view an ongoing engagement with you around our prison ministry program. We like to start our show every week with a UU roundup, and we didn't actually talk about things going on in Unitarian Universalist world. Dawn, I should have worn my faithfully pro-choice T-shirt. I got mine in the mail today. It's a lighter color pink than yours.
This is red apparently, but it's
that's red.
The lighting here is.
Mine is a lovely pale pink,
Awesome.
and I would have got the bright pink because that's the color that Planned Parenthood uses when we lobby in Albany, but they only had a very pretty pale pink, which I'll feel pretty in, and that'll be okay. What's going on in the world of Unitarian Universalism, Dawn?
You weren't with us last week because you were serving the greater movement by being on the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. So there are a lot of people that went through that process last week that I imagine are celebrating or discerning their next steps on the road to professional fellowship ministry. So that's a thing.
Yeah, and for those people who don't know what that is, the Ministerial Fellowship Committee is the committee that is the final folks preparing for the ministry see in order to be admitted to full standing as Unitarian Universalist ministers.
Yeah.
Also, people don't get the news they want when they see that committee.
Yes, Murray Grove. I should know this. I am right up the street, down the street, somewhere. I'm near Murray Grove. Murray Grove Homecoming is this weekend. Actually, today is Murray Grove. Today is John Murray Day. It is September 30th, which is the day that is celebrated as when John Murray ran aground off New Jersey and ended up preaching Universalist salvation at Potter's Chapel in his field.
And this weekend at Murray Grove, they are focusing on racial justice. And our own Cir L'Bert, who you will hear from in a moment, is giving a workshop. And I am actually doing the Sunday worship. So you can register. It's all virtual. Though I'm actually going to be doing Sunday worship from Murray Grove, from the holy site of Universalism itself.
Now, is that going to be
making me drive down there, even though the worship is on Zoom?
We should totally have lunch, Michael.
We totally should.
So, for those of us that have other obligations on Sunday mornings, will those be available online after?
I think so. Yes.
To watch.
I think Murray Grove is making those available, and Cir can tell us more about whether all the workshops are also going to be made available from Murray Grove afterwards. I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe Cir doesn't know either. Well, without further ado, I want to move into our guests this week, because this week we are talking about the Worthy Now Prison Ministry Network, which is a vital and life-saving ministry of the Church of the Larger Fellowship. And our guests, who are not really guests because they're part of our team at CLF, are Cir L'Bert Jr., who is our prison ministry manager, and Beth Murray, who is our prison ministry administrator. And we can bring them onto the screen so people can see them. Maybe. There we go.
Tanner.
Welcome.
We're taxing Tanner's tech.
Welcome, Cir and Beth. It is so nice to have you here.
It's good to be here.
So, Cir, do you want to just give folks out there a little overview of what the Worthy Now Prison Ministry Network is? Because our podcast goes out to the world, and there are probably people who haven't heard of it.
Yeah, and for having me on. You mentioned we have the Murray Grove Homecoming this weekend, and I always think of our saying that CLF And the Word of Mouth program is essentially the spiritual home of so many VUUs who don't have a church. We are the home of the church home of 1,379 incarcerated folks. And this is the action is spread out all over the country in many different facilities. And through our program, we offer them a church home by bringing them prison ministry newsletters twice a year. We give them the Quest monthly CLF mailing, and they also get a copy of the VUU World Magazine. So it's for many of them. What I really noticed that's so important is in prison, it's harder not to come by church, and it's even harder to come by a church that's accepting of all people, of folks of different genders, of different races and orientations. So other than the mailings, we also run a really large pen pal program. And that's probably one of our key features. It provides connection, it provides kind of that social back and forth folks need. And yeah, it's really a lot of it is, like I said, providing our home.
And so that pen pal network is robust and open to Unitarian Universalists all over the place to be part of. And Beth, you are like our pen pal person. You are like the guru of pen palness. You want to tell us more about that program?
Sure. So first, there's a prerequisite before obtaining a pen pal. Prerequisite number one is that you have to be a member of the CLF. And prerequisite number two is we ask our incarcerated members to take an introductory course to Unitarian Universalism. And it's only after the completion of that course is an incarcerated member then eligible for a pen pal. And right now, we do not have enough free world writers. So a lot of the mail that I'm getting right now is, when are you going to match me? And just a lot of frustration. So if there's people out there who are interested in being a pen pal, boy, would we love to have you. We have about close to 150 incarcerated members who are all eligible. They've gone through the prerequisites. They are patiently and some impatiently waiting for a connection. And I would say that they have to wait approximately 8 months before their name drifts up to the top of the list. And that's really, really hard when you felt like you've done everything that's necessary, and now you just don't know why you aren't being matched right away. So that's hard and that's frustrating. So yes, when we get people connected, free world people are allowed to remain totally anonymous. They're only known by their first name. And mail goes to and from people through the Boston office. So a free world person can send a letter to their pen pal to me, and I forward it along, and vice versa. So that you don't have to reveal your address, you don't have to reveal anything. Addresses, last names all remain confidential. And our hope is that if you become a pen pal, that you're writing about once a month. And I cannot tell you how many people who just thank the CLF profusely when they say the most heart-wrenching things. They say, well, my My family has disowned me. I've not gotten a letter from a family member for years and years, and now the CLF is my family. So having that connection with someone on the outside can be a life changer for many people.
And a lot of our incarcerated members are LGBTQ
Yes.
folks, right? And so they might not only have experienced trauma from their religions of upbringing, but they might also have families that don't accept that part of who they are, and our pen pals do. And so it really can be a life-saving thing. But I've heard stories from the free world pen pals about how their pen pal relationships have been life-changing for them as well too. So I don't want to pretend that it's a one-way relationship.
Right.
It's an actual relationship that people form that connects them with someone who is incarcerated and experiencing that, and it changes the lives of our free world folks too.
Hold on, I have to go off for 1 second.
And I think things that we are focused on in the next few months is really strengthening our free world pen pal support. And so right now there is a Facebook page that to be a pen pal, you can go on the page and talk to other folks about their experiences, about CLF, about prison ministry outreach. And we also want to offer a little bit more of preparation. So one of our new learning fellows, Arian Babcock, is going to be helping me really work on how can we give folks kind of a quick orientation on being a pen pal, holding the humanity of someone who is incarcerated, and we really want to kind of focus on this is a covenant that joining into a pen pal relationship under with our program is really about a VUU and a kind of a spiritual relationship. And so we want to offer, we're looking to offer hopefully maybe like 4 trainings. So we're thinking like quarterly in addition to that orientation. And we are finally looking at revamping our website a little bit. I know if folks have been there in the last year or so, there are a few things that need updated yet. We are realizing that's probably our best bet of reaching our free world folks and providing a landing spot of support for them.
So I have a question. Let me make sure. Okay, I haven't muted myself. I have a question. With COVID really complicating how people are doing social justice work, how they're doing all kinds of things in congregations, I'm wondering, do you have congregations that, as a group, make it one of their projects that they do to get their members involved as pen pals? Do you have any congregations that do that, and is there a process for that? Because I'm thinking this might be something that my people would get energized about. I don't know. It's just I'm thinking off the top of my head, but it seems like a neat thing to introduce. Beyond saying go to the website and sign up, is there a process to introduce congregations to the thought of pen pal work?
I'm happy to jump in. So I would say that frequently we get entire congregations participating in the pen pal program when we do a massive holiday messaging project, and we get entire congregations who are willing to write envelopes, address envelopes, stamp them, and send a holiday message. And last year, we were able to send 3 holiday messages to every single incarcerated person. So that's just hundreds, I mean, thousands of messages that are being mailed out. And where it gets a lot of it's contagious when a church decides to do it as a group. Yeah. There's just huge energy. In fact, I had one person who needed to do a community project, and so she initially signed up just to receive 3 names and 3 addresses. By the time she was done, she had done close to 300.
Wow.
Yeah. And sending holiday messages is not as easy as you think because of the restrictions mail restrictions at facilities. For example, the entire state of Texas does not allow cards of any type. I mean, you can't even send a birthday card. I know.
Yeah, they don't allow cards. They don't allow color. So we had to make a black and white line art greetings that people could write letters on. And
Texas doesn't allow color. Why am I not surprised?
It's amazing. The other thing, Dawn, that people should know out there is that we are the Church of the Larger Fellowship is about to release a worship service that centers the voices of our incarcerated members and our Worthy Now prison ministry network, and also features what it's like to be pen pals. So that would be a great way to introduce your congregations, or anyone's congregation out there to this program. Sir, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit, because Dawn brought up COVID, and I know that prisons have been centers of COVID infection, and our incarcerated siblings have been especially at risk in this pandemic time. How has that changed our ministry, or what are we hearing from our members about that?
Yeah, COVID has been a disaster, to be honest, in the U.S. prison system. So there's just a study released by Northwestern University that essentially the cases of COVID in jails and prisons drove millions of more cases. So not only did it really just devastate the prison population, who are already dealing with kind of really poor access to healthcare, overcrowding, and that kind of spread, yet it essentially formed an incubator for the disease to mutate. And then when you count in how many who work in the facilities are coming in and out and essentially spreading the virus further in their own communities. So it has been extremely devastating. And I think that one of the biggest effects that it has had on our members is increasing isolation, increasing loneliness, and it's resulted in loss of contact with family members, with regular support systems. So the need for that one-on-one connection, like the pen pal program, like the pastoral support that we offer, is even more crucial. So there's a quote on our Faithify campaign right now from Jack, incarcerated in Texas. This is what the long haulers, referring to COVID, needs: a ministry of hope, of love, of celebration of life that teams all around us. And he talked about his CLF pen pal partner who's really helped keep him going to this moment. And it says, thank you for all of you, and especially folks who take the time to drop a line to us, share persons, and not just numbers, not just Facebook addresses. And that sentiment is brought up over and over again, that folks in the systems really feel the pressure of being basically reduced to numbers, reduced to statistics, and during this pandemic, it's only increased as the patients has been everywhere. And if you imagine a place that didn't have a lot of patients for humanity in the first place, it's only gotten worse. Violence has increased really at all levels. COVID has really impacted the prison population, and of course the impact on people of color is extreme.
I've also heard that some facilities deliberately went into a male lockdown. It's in some cases not allowing male to leave the prison nor male to come in. And I have a theory about the male leaving the facility, and that is when COVID was just raging through so many of our facilities. I don't think prison facilities wanted people on the outside to know how bad it was. And so they just stopped communication. Problems with incoming mail has become really spotty. And I know that a lot of times that's because of reduced staff. So when you have staff people who have not been vaccinated and there's COVID raging not only amongst our prison population, but also the staff there, then guess what? Mail doesn't get sorted and our CLF members don't receive letters.
Yeah, it's one of the things that has been most I'm trying to find the right word, that has changed me the most in my year and a little bit as part of the co-ministry team that leads Church of the Larger Fellowship, is hearing these stories and just getting to witness firsthand or barely secondhand the ways in which our prison industrial system systematically dehumanizes people, again and again, blocks contact, isolates people. I don't think it can be overstated just how destructive it is to people who are incarcerated, just how soul destructive it is. And so that anything that we do to provide connections is so vital. Sir, you mentioned a Faithify campaign, and I didn't want to interrupt the conversation about COVID to talk about that, but since you mentioned the Faithify campaign, can you tell us a little more about what that's for and the exciting things that it's going to be funding?
Oh,
Sir,
I can't hear you, sir.
You're muted, sir, or your mic is not working.
How's that?
Ah, there you are.
Excellent. Yeah. Better.
Hopefully, my audio is coming okay. Yeah, so we are in the middle of our annual Faithify campaign right now for the Word They Know ministry. The goal is to raise $15,000. We are over halfway there. And one of the great things is it's in partnership with the VUU funding program, so it is a match. So every dollar you spend, it'll be double. And really, the cost of our program is about $150 per person. So across, what did I say, 1,379 members. Like it's a big operation. That covers our mailing, the printing. One of the things we do is offer books, for example. And while there are some prisons that still allow actual physical copies of books to be sent, the majority of them do not. The majority of them, they only allow for single pages. And so we have to get the book, break it down into multiple single pages and send it out. And looks like my video is messed up.
So
How about I'm gonna log in and I'll let Beth.
So Beth, did I hear Cir correctly that prisons don't allow incarcerated folks to have books, and so we have to scan books in with the permission of the publisher and author and send them printouts on single sides? I mean, is that for real, Beth?
Yes. Unfortunately, give me the names of 6 facilities and I'll show you 6 different regulations. So there are some facilities that accept books, some facilities don't. Some facilities have a library, others don't. Some facilities only accept books if they come directly from the publisher. So getting an inexpensive used book, I know of a Free World pen pal who bought a used book that had a little bit of highlighting in it from its previous owner. Rejected. So, because the reason it gets type of marker or colored pencils, colored markers, the automatic assumption is that there's drugs that have been dissolved in that. So, I mean, it's the same category as why we send holiday messages with no color because of that. So, many of our incarcerated members will be able to receive an actual book. And when we send reading projects, for example, having the permission of the publisher, we just forget the book part. We divide it up, as you said, into manageable amounts, again, because many facilities have restrictions on how many pages you can send at one time. Or how about this? A letter bounced back. It was a reading project, and so an excerpt from a book, and it bounced back because it was double-sided. Okay, so I print it out single-sided and I mail it again. It bounces back again because I've now exceeded that facility's quota for how many pages can be in an envelope at one time. So all of this is to say that this grant, let's get back to the Faithify thing. Sir, it'd be great if you could jump in, but this Faithify thing is an opportunity for us to try to figure out how to get more reading materials successfully into a facility.
Yeah. And so we have a new partnership with Beacon Press to offer 3 books this year, 3 more books than normal. And so that's part of our, as Beth said, our Faithify campaign is to essentially help support that effort. We are also developing 3 new classes. We had there's always a lot of interest in specifically 2 things, paganism and Islam. And one of the things we noticed with the paganism movement, as some folks might know, there is a uncomfortable overlap with a lot of white supremacist movements. And so we really felt that the best thing was for us to develop our own class with UU values. So we are working on new classes. And essentially the Faithify program campaign is one of our pillars of funding. And we're so excited that we're almost there. And with your help, we can get further.
So these classes, we're hoping to do new courses that we offer for our incarcerated members on different theologies, and starting with paganism and humanism and Islam, because those are some of the theologies that I know our incarcerated members are most interested in, that they can't get access to good materials in their tiny libraries and whatnot. How many courses do we currently offer? I know we offer courses to our incarcerated members, which, you know, thankfully CLF was founded as a church by mail, because that's the way we have to do it. How many courses do we currently offer?
Yeah, so every year, when the Worthy Down newsletter comes out in the spring, its spring issue, we list 3 classes from which our incarcerated members may choose one. And they are only eligible for that course if they have also completed that introduction to Unitarian Universalism. So everybody is offered that Unitarian Universalist introduction course, that they don't even have to register for it. They're just automatically signed up for it upon receiving their membership. Many people choose not to take it, and that's totally fine, but it is offered to everybody. And then those people who have completed that introductory course have the added perk of looking at the course choices when they're listed every spring and choosing one course that gets distributed. So we had close to, I want to say 183, so close to 200 people who registered for a course, and those are in the process of leaving the Boston office in small amounts of paper per envelope. We're sending them out now.
And yeah, so courses include world religions. There's a UU Bible study course. We have one, it's Justice on Earth. And one of the things we're really looking forward to as we build up the Free World support system is actually allowing Free World people a little bit more of a window into the reading packets and the courses that the incarcerated members are taking, with the hope that this will provide more conversation, maybe some theological discussion, and just essentially more connection between the pen pals and the groups. And it's, you know, it's never fails to amaze me how passionate and invested and just really active that our incarcerated members are when it comes to the courses and to learning and trying to pick up more information and trying to prepare themselves for their eventual release. You know, we have folks who have been in our program, who have done everything they can to put themselves on the ministry track, who have taken classes on being a minister, on theology, things like that. And even in that, the just kind of soul-crushing environment, there is still this passion for spirituality.
And not only do we offer the opportunity to take a course every fall, but also every spring, just even separate from this Faithify campaign that we're running, but we also offer reading projects, which were mentioned, and those have no prerequisites whatsoever. It's an opportunity to look at 3 reading projects that we offer and choose one. Get something to read, something to pass the time. Can I read you an excerpt from a letter that I received? Is that okay? Okay. I'm going to try not to cry when I read this. So we have an incarcerated member who was incarcerated for 30 years in North Carolina. And he was released from prison on parole, only to have to, he was sent to South Carolina for the exact same crime. And here's what he wrote me after just from the South Carolina facility. He said, "Dear Beth, thank you for your letter. I cried just knowing that someone cares. You simply cannot imagine this place. I am in a 9 by 12 cell with 2 others, 24 hours a day, in the dark, no radio, no books, no TV. I can send out just 2 letters every 30 days and get to place 2 5-minute phone calls a week, sometimes," he says. "And I get 3 15-minute showers a week. I've seen no doctor yet. As you know, I am 62 with stage 3 kidney failure, advanced Crohn's disease, and I'm legally blind. I'm using a thin beam of light from a window to write this."
And that's just one of hundreds of letters that we receive that, I mean, are heartbreaking in their description of the conditions that our siblings in faith have to deal with every day, and sometimes they're just profound. I was in correspondence with one of our incarcerated members who responded to something I had written in Quest by asking me to read Hannah Arendt, political philosopher, because he thought that, like, what she had to say would make what I had written about more complex, and it totally did. It totally did, and it just blew my mind that like we were having this really amazing, very slow conversation. You know, it was just a couple of back and forths, but it was awesome. So, you know, we learn things too, and we it's relationship.
You know, this person, Gary, oh, sorry, sir. Can I just add one other thing? This person, Gary, formerly incarcerated in North Carolina, now in South Carolina. When he was released from North Carolina, he was considered low risk to reoffend. And he put in 30 years of time in North Carolina. And now he has to, for the exact same crime, he has to start over again. I'm just speechless.
The only words I can think of are not appropriate for this program.
Yeah.
Sir, you wanted to say something?
Well, just to speak to the level of potentially control and oppression, you know, from the way that just things like whether or not you can send a double-sided page to, you know, the restrictions on mailing and how much time folks can spend on a phone call. You know, the restriction on color is really striking to me. Is just it's a reminder that the mass incarceration system is a descendant of slavery. Many enslaved folks in America were barred access to certain colors on their clothing. So they were essentially forced to only dress in grays and muted flat colors like that. And all of it is the purpose of all of it is just to control someone's humanity and try and demean them. And And as we said earlier, this moment has only increased that even more.
Did you know that people who are incarcerated in North Carolina have 3 addresses? They have one address where their facility is located. They have a different address for mail, letters, and they have a 3rd address for publications like the UU World.
And it's simply designed to isolate them by confusing people. I mean, there's no other real reason for that.
Right. And just when I think our database has been configured in a way that will handle these 3 things, I get 6 letters returned to the Boston office. They were just letters, correspondence. I sent them to the address that I was told this is what you're going to use when sending a letter. Every single one of them came back to the Boston office. When I call the facility to say, okay, help, what am I doing wrong? Oh, no, you can't talk to us. You have to talk to this 3rd party, the company that's doing the scanning. When I call that company, well, first of all, you can't call them. You can only send one of these messages through their website. Yeah, haven't heard back yet.
So in the few minutes we have left, I want to bring us to prison abolition.
It's a short jump.
I want us to make sure we get there, because part of the reason we tell these stories, and part of the reason we want Unitarian Universalists to know these stories and know what our incarcerated members go through and are dealing with is to point a way forward that tears down those walls. I don't think I need to elaborate much more than that, but Cir, I'm hoping that you can speak to the importance of prison abolition work and what it is that we mean when we say that.
Well, as you mentioned, the mass incarceration system is it's essentially what our slave system became, and so much of our identity, or the U.S., I should say, the U.S. identity as an empire, as a capitalist machine, it thrives on that. The U.S. is a system that's addicted to free labor. It's a system that can't really sustain itself in these toxic, problematic ways without some kind of forced labor populace. And the conditions in the prison certainly reflect kind of the U.S. inhumanity towards people. I think when we think about folks who are persecuted for their beliefs, we generally don't think about UUs. However, the UUs that are experiencing regular religious persecution are UUs who are incarcerated. So they deal with chaplains who may be hostile towards the idea of a faith system that accepts LGBTQ folks. They may deal with a prison system that refuses to acknowledge that their chalice pin is a religious symbol, or they may try to keep them from congregating in the few spaces where we do have multiple UUs in a facility. And I think that I always want folks who are free world and who are kind of in some position of freedom to remember that the focus isn't necessarily on us. However, as it kind of relates to the future and what abolition means, I think we all need to understand, especially those of us who are committed to justice, who are committed to progressivism, that as climate change increases, as as the world becomes more susceptible to these pandemics due to a hotter climate, as the global inequities increase, the kind of population of those who we consider jailable will increase. The folks who are, I think about our immigrant population, as climate change increases, we will have a much more volatile immigration system. And many of those people who are heading to our country end up directly in facilities that are essentially prisons, where their labor is exploited, where they are held unlawfully in many cases, and where they are essentially processed into our existing carceral system. So the more our systemic kind of instability grows as we enter this late stage capitalism, the more we all have to understand that no one is safe in a system that needs people to be incarcerated. And it's a thing that will only grow, it will only get worse, and it has a bearing and effect on all of the other movements and things we hold dear. So we kind of have to realize that while it is right now a segment of our population, while it is inevitably extremely anti-Black and focused on repression of Black and Indigenous and people of color, that is expanding, and it will continue to expand until it overtakes many of us.
And I think it bears repeating, the United States economy was founded on the forced labor of enslaved Africans and their descendants. And so the United States economy still requires forced free labor in certain parts. And our Constitution, in the part of the United States Constitution that abolished chattel slavery, the one exception in the United States Constitution to when people can be enslaved is as punishment for a crime.
Right.
It's the one constitutional exception to slavery in the United States. And if that doesn't send a chill down your spine, it should.
Yeah.
Dawn?
So I just as with all social justice movements, the world comes along when it costs too much to not come along, right? Corporations started talking about green technology when their customers demanded it. Automobile dealers, factories, companies started making electric vehicles when people started demanding them. And when it became in their interest to accommodate that. So I'm wondering, and right now, the way the prison industrial complex is set up, with private corporations are paid by bodies in beds or bodies in cages. And in order to get their money, they need those bodies where they are because they're paid by the person. So it is in their interest to maintain that system. What is it we could possibly do to make it cost more than it's worth? You know what I mean? Because there's a part of me that says, yes, good people will do good things. But there's another part of me that says, when they're made to. When it's inconvenient or painful to do something else. Right? And so it strikes me that there's got to be, because there's no moral arguments are not working against the prison industrial complex. Spiritual arguments are not working against the prison industrial. Like, those arguments have never worked against capitalism. What has worked against capitalism is capitalism. You know, money. I recently saw something where you know, capitalists are saying, well, nobody wants to work. You know, there's a worker shortage, and you know, the answer to that is, well, scarcity causes increased value. You know, which is the premise of capitalism. So what is it that we can do as a culture, as individuals, to make for-profit prisons no longer profitable, or to make it hurt more than it's worth?
Mhm.
And I don't have an answer to that. That's a big question to drop at 12:57 p.m. but I think it's you know, it's worth thinking about. It's worth exploring. It's worth, because moral stuff doesn't have an impact on people who are motivated by profit and cruelty. You know, cruelty is the point. They're not moved by compassion. They're moved by money. So let's kick them in the money.
I think that one of the things and it's essentially related, I always hope that folks can take away from this discussion on abolition is, especially progressive folks in communities like ourselves, is to avoid the compartmentalizing of causes. So one of the things that I noticed so much over the past couple of years was kind of the routine week of activism of, well, I have a book club on, you know, progressive on voting one Monday. On Tuesday, I have yoga. On Wednesday, there's a Black Lives Matter rally. And then on Friday, I'm sending letters to get a white male, moderate Republican or moderate Democrat elected who's railed against defund the police for however long. As people of conscience, we can't afford to have those disconnections. You have to understand that if all of those causes are connected, one of the most exciting things that happened in the abolition movement, I can't think of a specific group or name what it was called yet, was essentially regular boycotts where they wouldn't buy sugar, they wouldn't buy coffee, because those were items that were so deeply tied to the slave trade. And I think as we grow in our movement, especially this recent one, we have to understand how tied all of these things are. You know, it is unfortunately just not good enough to only vote, to only show up to these kinds of compartmentalized things. We have to see them as together, and that getting to the root of what's wrong with capitalism, understanding how it relates to, as we talked about, the connection to free labor, that is key, so that we don't have folks who are showing up to a rally and then saying, well, I don't want to defund the police, that sounds too scary, I think I can just vote for this kind of comfortable white guy and get back to the norm.
Well, we will undoubtedly have many more conversations about this, in part because you are the CLF team, and this is something that we as a congregation are passionate about moving us towards. So we will undoubtedly have many more conversations that are deeper than this could be in this hour overview. Thank you so much, Cir and Beth, for your time. We very much appreciate it. Sign up to be a pen pal. Get your congregation to sign up. Your generous giving to our Faithify campaign is welcome. Those links will be available to you soon. And next week we welcome back our Minister Emerita, the Reverend Meg Riley, co-moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and one of the founding hosts of the VUU, to talk about the new meditation anthology that she's edited, that is meditations on 2020 that hopefully will very soon be very dated and a document of history, because I'm like, yeah, this one still applies, but we'll talk about that with Meg next week. Thank you for being here for the View. Blessings on the week in front of you.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit CLFUU.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The View.